So, the United States currently has a radicalization problem. The radicalization comes in more than one way, really. We're not just talking about the far right extremist Trump supporters. We're also talking about a lot of people on the left, the anarchist types, some of them who want to see the downfall of the entire government, and that's understandable. I definitely can sympathize with that. But there are ways to go about changing things in your society that don't involve, a complete violent coup or a violent overthrow and just let things happen as they may. No, 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 no. The thing about this is that it's a response to the American citizenry not getting their basic needs met as is supposed to be the case from their government. Because the government's responsibility, first and foremost, is the preservation, protection, and promotion of the public welfare. Okay? That's what the government's supposed to do. But over the last 4 decades or so, we've elected officials because they had the money to run, and they had and if not, they had the backing from people who had money. They were promoting a neoliberal ideology based on every man for himself, no solidarity, no unity. It's all about you yourself, and you. But that is one of the most successful divide and conquer strategies I've ever seen, maybe of all time. It's like Margaret Thatcher was saying back during the Reagan years. There is no society, there is only the individual. Well, that's how Reagan thought. That's what he promoted. The busting up of unions, the idea that everybody needs to go to college. It's about what you want. Nobody else matters. Well, that destroys solidarity and it destroys unity, and that allows the rich and corporations to essentially get into power and do whatever they want. Because if everybody's divided and fighting amongst each other, nobody's looking over the shoulders of the rich and powerful. And also, you got to take into account that, recently we have voter disenfranchisement going on all over the country. I believe it's like 43 states. I could be mistaken about that number, but it's in the 40s, man. There's a lot of states out there passing or trying to pass voter suppression measures. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court has ruled that they're not unconstitutional because it's a states' rights issue. This is why, voting being guaranteed at once you hit a certain age, if you're born in this country or a naturalized citizen, has to be the case. And in fact, there is a provision. I think it was in the God. It's been a while. I have to look this up again. It was something about voting as it pertains to indentured servitude. Let's see. See if I can find it again. Bear with me a bit, guys. Sorry it takes so long. Let's see here. Education, okay. Alright. Legal punishment shall not be inflicted. No, that's not it. Effectively, or the people. I know I did this like 2-hour video on the Constitution. It was a while ago. Let's see. Slavery, not law, transfer. Crap. Damn it. Can't find the stupid thing. Constitution certain rights powers delegated. Citizens. Citizens right to citizens of the United States. They reside in no equal protection. No. I'm sorry, guys. This is taking. I know it's in there, man. I read it. Go back and look at my video, and you'll hear me speak it. But there is a constitutional provision that says you can't deprive somebody of the right to vote, because of condition of servitude. All right. Now, this means effectively that prisoners under the Constitution should be allowed to vote, right? I mean, if you can't discriminate against somebody under the law based on their condition of servitude, why are prisoners not allowed to vote? So that's another way the Constitution gets violated all the time. But it's just one way of shrinking democracy and making sure that more and more people don't have a voice in how the country is run. And that benefits the rich and powerful. And if you look back at how the country was originally founded, it was founded by a bunch of people, landowners, slave owners, people of means, who wanted to keep those means. They didn't want to contribute to what the British Empire was doing, and so they said, okay, screw this, we're going to form a new country. Well, let's be real here. The colonists who were living in the colonies at that time had very little say over all this. They weren't making the decisions. They were just trying to do their own thing every day. A lot of them farmers, some of them merchants, some of them craftsmen, just doing their own thing, trying to get by as people do. And then you get this small group of elites who basically are saying, we're going to start a new country here, and everybody else just shut up and obey the laws we lay down. So as you can see there was never really a democracy established in the first place. It's just that a democratic process takes place within the halls of power. That's it. That's why, a lot of people on the right and libertarians who are actually correct to point this out, that we are not in fact a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Yes, we are. And we are supposed to have what is known as a representative democracy. Now that's not anywhere near a social democracy. What this is you elect somebody, and the representatives use a democratic process to pass legislation using their own judgment. That's what a representative democracy is. But when you go towards a social democracy, the people have a more direct say in what goes on. All right, case in point, Brexit. The public voted on it. It was a referendum. You can also go into the local and state levels, in state by state, county by county across this country. You'll find very similar measures taking place. That's social democracy. For instance, in my community, we kept voting to increase the school funding, and now we have a renovated elementary school that I used to go to when I was a kid, and it looks great. That's what social democracy can do. It can allow the people to mandate what needs to be done. It's like signing off on an order to give to their local and state governments to do certain things. And that's why I think that's the more effective way to run a society. Now, the radicalization part here is that at the federal level, the representative democracy is all but completely disappeared. I mean, you have a handful of people who are progressives in there trying to do the right thing, but they're slowly but surely succumbing to the corruption in the system. And I don't mean they're taking money from corporations or rich people. I mean, it's just like they're being beaten over the head so many times by leadership. Shut up, fall in line, do as you're told or you'll be punished. And they don't want to be punished. They want to be able to keep doing what they're doing so that they can eventually reach their goal to serve the people who want things like Medicare for all, a living wage, and Green New Deal, and et cetera, et cetera. But of course, the way the establishment beats them over the head all the time, I think a lot of them are beginning to understand that that'll never happen, right? They're just going to be strung along, and things will continue on as normal, and that's going to be to all of our detriment. And this is part of what radicalizes people, particularly on the left, because when you elect people who are supposed to represent you, supposed to carry out your will, and they try and try and try, and the establishment just kind of chokes them to the point where they can't move anymore, and they're like, okay, we give in, we're not going to push anymore. Well, then the people become like, well, what the hell did we get you elected for if that's what you're going to do? Right? And of course, you had the more recent example here about Nancy Pelosi with her student debt comment.
The president does not have the power to forgive student debt.
You got to understand something about these people. They're old. They grew up in a certain vision of America during a time when the propaganda was so intense that they were taught, rah, rah, USA #1. And everything else was just background noise. And they think that their version of America that they were taught was the best and could never get any better. And they're trying desperately to make sure that vision of America stays a reality as long as they draw breath. The problem with this, of course, is that they don't care who suffers. It's always some moral failing on the part of the individual in their minds. And so they're just going to keep stepping on everybody, and they're going to keep screwing the people over and saying, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And that just pisses everybody off more and more on all ends of the political landscape. Right, left, center, up, down, libertarian, green, it don't matter. It doesn't matter what you are. See, the people on the left and the right, it's oversimplification with this analogy because it's a landscape, it's not a spectrum. But for simplistic reasons, the left and the right, we are subject to the same oppression by the same group of people. You know, wealthy oligarchs who are only in it to make money for themselves. Part of how they do that is they rig the laws in the favor of their donors so they in turn can get higher donations. That's how they increase their own coffers. And of course, they could always tack on a pay raise for themselves whenever they want. That's another big problem. If it was up to me, I would say that the American people should be the ones determining, their representative salaries, and that they should have it on a ballot. The representatives should put it on a ballot, whether or not they get a raise or not. Even if they're running for re-election, if they lose the election but still get the raise, guess what? The incoming representative is going to get that raise. Isn't that interesting? But I think that there's a good way to handle the 10 basic commons of society. I did a video about that as well. But the 10 basic commons, healthcare, education, firefighting, police, military, infrastructure, public utilities. What were the other ones? Brain farting here, sorry guys. But those of you who've seen that video know what I'm talking about. But there's a way to do this in a more socially democratic way, and it's like, again, signing that order form to your government telling them you must do this in this order. And of course, the way that works is you rank choice vote the 10 basic commons areas from 1 to 10, 1 being the most urgently needed and 10 being the least, the last one to be considered or the last one to be funded because it's like the least important right now. But you would rank it, and the average taken together of all the votes would be presented to your government, and they would be like, okay, this is your order form, this is what you have to fund, and you have to fund it, in this priority. That's what that would be. But we're a long way from that point, and we are relying still on a bunch of people who are using their own judgment to line their own pockets and the pockets of their donors. And that's the thing. They want to live in their gated communities. They think that it's their right to come into our camps once they've separated themselves from the rest of us and take our stuff and say, you can't fight back and do anything about it. We have the right to take your stuff and build our own wealth. Meanwhile, you have the right to shut up and take it. And then if we try to fight back, they sick law enforcement on everybody. This is another way you radicalize people. Because when they feel like they have nothing left to lose, out come the pitchforks, out come the torches, out come the guillotines, and they come for these people. History shows us this time and again. So, if people think it couldn't happen in this country, you're wrong. If these people keep going the way they're going, the most likely scenario is that it is going to get very ugly in this country. Those rich people, those corporate executives are going to be sought after. Their heads will be going through the guillotines, and they will, be made examples of publicly in the streets. It would be ugly in the worst case scenario. And it's a shame that this government does not realize this. They think, oh, we'll just send the National Guard in and we'll put down the peasants. Yes. Well, you got to understand something here. You're also negatively affecting people who serve in the military. They're part of us. And, you might think, well, by the time they revolt, we'll be long dead. Maybe that's true. But do you really want the country to go down a path you never intended it to? Think about that. And also, back to the point of the student loan debt thing, it's like, Nancy, it doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. Either you do it now, or we're going to come along and do it later. Either way, it's going to happen. So why fight the future, This is what the American people want. And if you really believe in democracy, you really believe in serving the people, you'll do it. But it's clear you don't want to do it. You don't believe in serving the people. You're an elitist bitch who just believes in lining her own pockets and expanding her own power. All right? Same thing with any of the Republicans. Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, of course, Tom Cotton, Ron DeSantis. They're all a bunch of elitist pricks. They all just want to sick the military on people and kill off any left-leaning peasants who don't agree with their ideology. They're showing it all the time. I mean, hell, the laws passed in Florida around Ron DeSantis saying, if you see protesters in the street, you can run them over. Well, the only thing going for the people in the state of Florida in that case is that there aren't many protests going on in Florida. It's mostly retired people, a very conservative state. You're not likely to see a bunch of protests. But still, that law should be struck down in court. And that's the thing. The more these laws start to happen throughout the country, and they are, the more radicalized people are going to become, because they're going to feel choked. They're going to feel stifled to the point where they have no freedom anymore. And that's what capitalism inevitably leads to when it begins to fail. Fascism is capitalism's immune system. All right? So when the people start fighting back, the fascists, the people who are the capitalist gatekeepers in the government, will send out, the mercenaries. They'll send in the people to squash any opposition to capitalism, because they want to continue to get rich. They want to stay powerful. And, that's why we have to do away with capitalism. Some people think that's a radical idea, but I assure you it's not. It's in some ways it's a natural progression of events. And our radicalization problem is the result of our elected officials not listening to us, these absurd court rulings that favor the rich and corporations, along with the laws being passed that just make anything that would benefit the people either illegal or, impossible to obtain. So time's running out. We have a radicalization problem, and the only way the government can stop it, really stop it, is to do what the people are telling them to do. And unfortunately, I really don't think that's going to happen. We're going to have to do it ourselves somehow.